Welcome to the Dinosaur George podcast, a show about paleontology and other earth sciences. Dinosaur George is a public speaker, author, and TV host with 30 years of study in paleontology. He has performed live in over 4,500 events across the US and Canada. Now, here is Dinosaur George. You are listening to a special edition podcast. In this episode, Dinosaur George will be answering questions submitted by the listeners. If you would like to submit a question, call us at 210-888-9077 or go to the Ask Dinosaur George page at dinosaurgeorge.com. And now, here's Dinosaur George.
Hey there, everybody. It's so nice to be talking to you all again. I hope everybody's doing well. You know, I just returned from my trip to Canada, and man, did I have a great time. For everybody who is watching on YouTube, how are you guys? It's nice to see you. Not that I can see you, but you know what I mean. And for everybody listening on the podcast, it's great to have you with us. I was in Canada for about 4 days. I flew into Edmonton and then went up to spend a couple of days speaking at Jurassic Forest, which I just posted a YouTube video about Jurassic Forest. So if any of you want to learn more about it or see what it is, take a look at that. You can find me on YouTube under Dinosaur George, and then I also have links on my podcast page. And so you can find it there. So if you want to see what Jurassic Forest is, go by there and take a look. It was really a fascinating place. It's a big facility where they've not leveled all the vegetation. In fact, they left it as is, and they put these robotic dinosaurs out among them. And what I really liked the most, some people I talked to didn't like this as much, but I thought it was great. They didn't put the dinosaurs 2 feet away from the walkway to where when you walked up, you could see them clearly. I liked it that they actually set them off in the distance a little bit. Not a great distance, but just far enough to where they looked a lot more realistic. You know, we've all seen the robotic dinosaurs either in museums or sometimes they have them in shopping malls at different places. You walk right up to them and you can see all the details of the robotics. And you know, you see cords and wires and you hear pistons and all these different odd noises. That detracts from the animal. But when it's out a little ways off and all of that is hidden by the vegetation and you see the animal, it looks so much more real. So that's what I got a chance to do, which I enjoyed it immensely. And then I also got a chance to interview a couple of young people. Their interview is going to be played in just a little while, so you'll hear my interview. But I think what I enjoyed the most is the host that brought me in to speak took me up to what was it called, Jasper, Canada, to some of the most magnificent sights I've ever seen. It's just spectacular. All these rivers and mountains and waterfalls. But I've got to admit that the thing I saw that I've never seen before in my life was a glacier. I got a chance to stand there and it's so overwhelming. Now, of course, if you've never seen a glacier, you might think of it as a big chunk of ice, and that's technically what it is. But it is so big, and this particular glacier has been receding pretty dramatically for thousands of years. You can see they have markers of where it was at set times of the different years. And you can see how it's receding. But what I found fascinating was it looked like it just churned up all of this incredible amount of rock and gravel and dirt. It almost looks like the face of the moon, or maybe what Mars would look like, you know, albeit none of the weather. But it was fascinating. I loved it. And the best part of all is it was my temperature. It was about 33 degrees, which is close to freezing. I had to wear a coat. That's the most unheard of thing when you live in San Antonio. It's absolutely unheard of that you would be wearing a coat in August, but I got to do it. So anyway, that's what I did. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm dedicating this entire episode just to answering your questions. So let's dive into it. All right, we start off with Brenda from Flower Mound, Texas. We would like to entertain having you come to our school. I do not have you currently in our system as a vendor. Would you be willing to fill out paperwork to become a vendor with the Louisville ISD? Thanks, Brenda. Of course I would. I would be more than happy to. I'd love to come up there and speak to your folks. If you are listening or watching, Brenda, I don't have your contact information here, but you can go to our website, dinosaurgeorge.com, and there is a contact us form. Click on the contact us. That will go right to Cheryl, who does all of the bookings, and she'll be absolutely happy to get you guys set up. All right, let's go. This is Cesario from San Antonio, my hometown. I am the president of Fernandez PTA. We would like to schedule a date for you to come to our school. Cool. All right, Cesario. Again, just like I had mentioned, if you'll go to the website, dinosaurgeorge.com, and fill that out. The reason why is this form that you guys both submitted to me. I can't see your email address. I don't know who you are or how to get back in touch with you. The reason why I do it is this form on the Ask Dinosaur George page. I'm very, very aware and cautious about privacy. I don't ask for last names, and I don't ask for phone numbers or email addresses because we get a lot of young people that write to me, and I know if I were a parent, I would appreciate that somebody like me who encourages young people to write. You want to know that their identity is being secured. So I don't even want to know your email address so that we can't contact you. So that's why, Cesario, if you would please just go to the page, the Ask Dinosaur, the Contact Us page. And again, Cheryl will get all the information to you. All right, this is from Michael from Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada. Was just up in your beautiful country, Michael. Hey, Dinosaur George, I have a question to ask about plesiosaurids. Is it possible that, like how male sperm whales were formed bachelor pods, could plesiosaurids have done the same thing? This is a question that has hindered me for a while, and so I wanted to see your hindsight on it. Well, first of all, Michael, thanks for taking the time to write. I've never been to Ontario, but I'm going to make it a point to come. For you young people that may be listening or watching, plesiosaurids are like the Loch Ness Monster, the thing that they show that they say is the Loch Ness Monster. I'm not saying it's real or not, but I'm just using that as an example. So, did they do it? Well, one of the difficulties, Michael, is we can't always understand behavior. Bones fossilize, but behavior doesn't necessarily fossilize. Maybe there's evidence of behavior, but we can't say for sure. But let's talk about why whales do this. Why do elephants do this? Why do most higher animals, why do they do this? The reason why the young males are often driven out of the herd, be this cows, rhinoceros, whatever. Well, rhinos don't really, that's a bad example, but hippos, elephants. Why they run the young males out is because the animals instinctively are trying to prevent a lot of interbreeding. In other words, when a young male comes into the ability to breed, you don't want him with the family group. You want him to move on because you want to ensure that the species is secure. If you have a lot of interbreeding, meaning relatives constantly breeding with relatives, over a period of generations, it will deteriorate those animals. They have practically no resistance to disease, and they have a lot of illnesses and a lot of deformities occur. And so the reason why sperm whales do it, the young males don't do it for fun. They do it for security. They've been driven from the group. They find that if they hang out with a bunch of fellas their same age, that there's security, but it also gives them an opportunity to practice their skills at fighting and wrestling and hierarchy and all those things, so that it helps them when they are mature enough to go out and find a group of their own, to start a family of their own. So why would plesiosaurs do that? For the exact same reason, Michael, because it would make sure that the group and that the species would be more suited for a healthier group. So, yes, I believe that they would have, solely based on the behavior of living animals. Can't say with any certainty, but that's just my opinion. All right, Sarah Jane from Australia. Boy, that's on my bucket list, Sarah Jane. One of these days I'm coming to your country, and you and your family are going to have to be tour guides for me. Sarah Jane says, hi, Dinosaur George. I've been wanting to send in a question for a while. I'm such a big fan. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Sarah Jane says, I wanted to ask you your opinion on the Jurassic Park movies and if you enjoyed them. I was always interested in dinosaurs, but the movies really made me a fanatic over them when I was around 5. I knew how to say Pachycephalosaurus before I could pronounce the word, before I could pronounce most words. Thank you so much for your podcast. Also, please come to Australia soon. Well, Sarah Jane, thank you for taking the time to write to me. I'm glad you finally did. And I will come to Australia one of these days. Okay. My opinion of all the Jurassic Park movies, loved them all. I enjoyed them tremendously. Yes, there were scientific inaccuracies. I understand that, but it's a fictional movie. And what it did for you, Sarah Jane, when you were around 5, is the same thing it did for tens of thousands, maybe hundreds, maybe millions of people. And that is got them interested in dinosaurs again. And that is a good thing. Now, some people, some of my colleagues in the scientific world are infuriated by it because it wasn't scientifically accurate. I completely understand that. And I understand their point. Their point is, look, if you're going to make a movie about dinosaurs, make it absolutely accurate. I caught so much grief from the science community over Jurassic Fight Club because what they were mad about was the end, where I did a play-by-play with a made-up fight scene, and that infuriated some of them. And I just thought, it's entertainment. It's not fact. It's not real. I wasn't there. I mean, I know I'm old, but I'm not that old. I wasn't there to see it. So to me, it's entertainment. So the benefits, the positive benefits of Jurassic Park and all the movies has been that it has put more emphasis on dinosaurs. More people started visiting museums. More people started donating to museums and to scientific causes. And so for me, the net result is it was a good thing for science. It was a good thing for entertainment. And it was a good thing for anybody who likes dinosaurs. All right, Ryan from St. George, Utah. Hello, DG. I wanted to tell you that I love what you're doing with the podcast. Again, thank you, Ryan. That's very kind of you, buddy. By the way, I'm coming to St. George one of these days to look at those track sites. Man, I want to see those. It says the podcasts are very informative and easy to comprehend. Well, thank you, Ryan. One of the things that I try to do is make things understandable to maybe not everybody that has the same level of knowledge that you or a lot of the viewers or a lot of the listeners have. You know, for some of you guys, I do get emails from you periodically that you want to go into great scientific detail, and I can appreciate that. But for the majority of listeners who don't share our same level of interest, they just want to know something that sounds interesting and something that's enjoyable and all that kind of stuff. So that is why I try to make it understandable, and I'm very glad that you find it to be. All right, a few questions popped into my head, and I was hoping you could answer. Question number 1, instead of asking about the hypothetical face-off, I thought I'd ask about one fight that really happened. If the fighting dinosaurs found in Mongolia didn't die, who would have won? Velociraptor or Protoceratops? Okay, what Ryan is referencing is I get a lot of people that want to know different scenarios. Who would win between this animal and this animal? Most of the time, those animals are not counterparts. They don't live together. They never saw each other. But people want to know, and I understand that, and so I have fun answering them. So Ryan chose to ask the same question, only he wanted it to be based on scientific evidence. So who would have won that fight? I would say, Ryan, that if velociraptors are anything like most modern carnivores, they are only successful about 20% of the time. So just on that alone, Protoceratops would have the advantage because the advantage goes to the herbivores. Now, certainly Velociraptor has incredible weapons and all of that stuff, but if Velociraptor would win without any problem, we wouldn't find many Protoceratops because they would have simply been wiped off the face of the earth. Velociraptors would have eaten them all. If they were that easy to catch and kill, there wouldn't be any of the fossil record. And those that are in the fossil record, their bones would be scattered and torn to shreds and half of them gone. Yet we find a lot of complete Protoceratops. And the same goes with, who's the other little guy? The little parrot beak. Walk on his hind legs. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe my mind just went blank. Wow. Okay, I'll remember later on. But the little ceratopsian that lived the same time that could walk on, he walked on two legs. Oh my gosh, this is going to drive me nuts. I know when I post this on YouTube, 50 of you are going to send the name and go, it was this, and I can't believe you forgot it. And then I'll scream at the top of my lungs. I want to mention this, by the way, for everybody that watches on YouTube, for all of you guys, and again, everybody that watches me knows I say guys, meaning people, not boys. For all of you guys that post corrections to things where I make a mistake, or if I don't know the answer and you post those, I appreciate that immensely. That is what science is about. It's sharing. So for any of you that know who I'm talking about, I'm not talking about Protoceratops. I'm talking about, oh, this is infuriating. Okay, anyway. So in my opinion, Velociraptor, in that particular case, Velociraptor has a 20% chance of winning. Protoceratops has an 80% chance of winning. So my guess would be Protoceratops. Okay, second, what is your favorite kind of pterosaur? Mine is Quetzalcoatlus, followed by Tupendactylus. Well, I don't know if I have necessarily a favorite pterosaur. I mean, I love Quetzalcoatlus, of course, but I also like Pteranodon. Is it Sternberg? I think the one with the cool head crest. Is it Ingens has the relatively flat head and Sternberg has the big crest? I think that's Sternberg. I like him because I think he looks cool. All right, finally, if a group of time-traveling humans were to go back to the Cretaceous, specifically the Hell Creek, do you think they would have been able to survive? Assuming they had no advanced technology with them, how, if possible, do you think they would be able to defend themselves from predators, find food, and make shelter? Thank you in advance. If you're able to answer my questions on the show and keep up the good work you're doing, sincerely, Ryan. P.S. Please let us know when you decide to open your dinosaur theme park so I can start saving up my pita bread. Well, Ryan, I'll keep you informed if I ever open up a theme park. And you're welcome for all that. Okay. So let's say time travelers go back and let's say they land in the Hell Creek Formation. The one thing that they're going to have, if they don't get to take weapons with them and they don't get to take technology, is the ability to make a fire. And fire is the great equalizer. That's why humans were able to finally advance beyond some of the other animals. We weren't fast. We didn't have big claws. We didn't have big sharp teeth, but we had the ability to make weapons and fire. Fire is the great equalizer. If you're in the Hell Creek and a Tyrannosaurus Rex approaches and you've got fire, I don't care how big he is. In my opinion, he's going to flee because he knows what fire can do. So yes, I think they would have been able to survive. I think they would have either gone to trees to live there or find caves where they could guard their back. But I think the most important thing they'd do is make fire, and that would keep even raptors away. Okay, Dennis from Inglewood, New Jersey. Hey, DG, thank you for responding and agreeing with my calves comment. Hey, Dennis, good to hear from you again, buddy. So Dennis says, I was just wondering, I've heard mixed reviews about velociraptors, about whether they hunted in packs like their larger cousins or not. Personally, I feel as if they did hunt together. It would be mom, dad, and some of the teenagers, or just mom and dad. What do you make of this? Well, Dennis, always animals that are small have an advantage if they hunt cooperatively. And I believe Velociraptor would have been that kind of animal. I think it would have been helpful for them to be able to take on much larger prey. I think any raptor would have hunted in packs. Now, we certainly have evidence, at least of Utah raptor and of Deinonychus working in groups. So I think that would have been something. And since they precede Velociraptor, I think that's a trait that would have been handed down. No way of knowing with absolute certainty, but that's my guess. All right. I don't know if you prefer Manuel or Manuel, but from Shelbyville, Tennessee, I'm going to go with Manuel, but here in Texas, we always refer to as Manuel. But however you pronounce it, I hope that I don't offend you by doing it wrong. So he says, Hello, George. Do you think Micropachycephalosaurus could have been a baby or a juvenile of the Chinese Pachycephalosaurus? What do you think? If you can please tell me. And says thank you from Manuel. Okay, Manuel, my understanding of Micropachycephalosaurus is that there was evidence that the skull didn't have the suture marks of a juvenile. What I mean by that is when you're a baby, your skull is not fused yet into one solid piece. The bones need the ability to grow. So you see those little zigzaggy lines that run in different parts of it. That's the suture. And when you mature, that seals itself up and your skull becomes solid once your skull gets as big as it'll get. And so that same thing seems to apply to dinosaurs and to other animals. They need the ability for their skull to grow so they can't be a solid piece. Once those suture marks are fused, then that tells you that that is a mature adult, or that it's an adult. Maybe not old, but that's an adult. Now, I may be totally off base because it's been 20 years since I've studied or did anything about Micropachycephalosaurus. So maybe I'm misspeaking. But if, in fact, that is true with that specimen and that it showed that it demonstrated that those suture lines in the skull had sealed themselves, then indeed that would be, in my opinion, evidence that the animal was an adult and therefore not a juvie. All right, I'm going to take me a short break real quick here. And when I come back, I'm going to play the interviews that I did with Jurassic Forest and Gibbons. And then I'm going to answer a few more of your questions. So sit tight, everybody. And let's see if we can see if I can take me a little break here. Okay.
Did you know that our online store is not just about dinosaurs? We have a huge collection of modern replica skulls, including mammals, sea life, reptiles, birds, and more. And teachers, these skulls are great for the classroom. Show your students the skull of a dodo bird, great auk, or Tasmanian wolf. The majority of these skulls are cast from original specimens from the California Academy of Sciences. Go to store.dinosaurgeorge.com to see our complete line of museum-quality casts and replicas.
Okay, you guys, recently I was up in Jurassic Forest, which is in Gibbons, Canada. And while I was there, I had a chance to interview two young people. So let's take a listen to the interviews. And for you on YouTube, take a watch. All right, you guys, I'm out here at Jurassic Forest, which is in Gibbons, Canada, I think, north of Edmonton. It's a magnificent place. And this is my friend Cameron, and I've known Cameron now for years. Cameron, when he was a tiny little guy, I've been coming out here for, I guess, 4 years now, so 5 years. And Cameron was this tiny little kid that could rattle off more facts about dinosaurs. Now he's grown into a young man. And Cameron, I just wanted to say, first, I'm so glad that you still like dinosaurs. What is it about dinosaurs that you like?
Well, mainly just the variety of different dinosaurs and how they've ruled the earth more than like any other kind of animals.
Right. It is amazing when you think about how old the earth is. And, you know, we think about things like the Egyptians, how long ago they lived. Well, that's nothing compared to the amount of time that the dinosaurs were on earth.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. So, before I start asking you some questions, and if you have some for me, I'll answer them. But before I do that, I wanted to say I was so honored when I got here this morning. Cameron was nice enough to give me some gifts, which is great. It's always great to get them, but when you get them from a friend and somebody you've known a long time, it makes a big difference. But probably the greatest thing that was in that gift bag for me was seeing your diploma for graduating from Dinosaurs 101, the online course that I think the University of Alberta did.
Yep.
How hard was it to do that?
Decently hard.
Was it hard?
Yeah.
Well, not for a dinosaur expert, though, right?
Yeah.
Being humble is the best part about being a paleontologist. So you were able to complete that. Congratulations. I'm very proud of you, man. That's very exciting. So now let's talk a little bit about who your favorite dinosaurs. Do you have a favorite group?
I think it's maybe carnosaurs like Allosaurus or Acrocanthosaurus.
Really? Allosaurus is my favorite. I love him. Acrocanthosaurus comes in a close second for me. I don't know, it's him, Deinonychus, Utah raptor. Maybe there's a new bigger raptor nobody's heard about that I would like to. But I love Allosaurus and Acrocanthosaurus. What is it about them that you like?
It's mainly just like, I like the variety of dinosaurs, but the Carnosaur group has even more variety. Like, no two Carnosaurs look the same.
Yeah, and that's kind of cool. Yeah, when you look at Tyrannosaurs, they have a tendency to look very similar. You have to look really close to recognize.
Yeah, like Displatosaurus, Tarbosaurus, T-Rex all look virtually the same.
That's exactly right. But there's no confusing Acrocanthosaurus and Allosaurus. There's no confusing those.
Or Giganotosaurus or Carcharodontosaurus.
Yeah, exactly right. There's no confusing those guys. Well, I'm thrilled that you still love dinosaurs, and I'm glad you like my favorite Allosaurus. What about raptors? Do you like some of the raptors?
Yeah.
Who is the newest guy you know of? Dakota Raptor. What a monster he is.
Yeah.
What did you think about when you found out how big he was?
Well, when I found out he was literally almost the same size as Utah Raptor, just like a little bit thinner, it was pretty scary when I found out the true scale of Utah Raptor, which was over 20 feet long.
Yeah, a lot of what you see of Utah Raptor, he's oftentimes underestimated in size.
Yeah.
But you're right, he's much thinner. So what does that suggest to you? Do you think Utah Raptor or Dakota Raptor, which of the two do you think would be the faster of the two?
Dakota Raptor.
Based on his
width.
Right. He's not as heavy, so therefore he probably ran faster. That's actually pretty good. So do you have any questions for me that you've ever wanted to ask?
What do you think of like the new colored guesses for dinosaurs?
I think what happens sometimes is sometimes we might take things to too far extremes,
yeah.
But I don't know if I feel that way about the new colorations being applied to dinosaurs. There have been some studies that they now can recognize color.
Yeah.
So
like Microraptor or Archaeopteryx, how they're more crow-like in their feathers.
There you go. And so if the relationship of birds is as strong as it is, we suspect it is, then I think color would be the proper thing that would follow, that they would use those bright colors. So if you were a oviraptor, do you think color would be important for you?
Yes.
Why do you think it would be important?
Because if you were a male oviraptor, it will be to either scare off rival males or attract the females.
Right.
And or keeping cool or warm, depending on the climate.
And the feathers would have played that part, but the color is, you made a good point. If color is used today by modern birds, who are the closest living relatives of the dinosaurs, then it stands to reason that color would probably be have the same importance with dinosaurs. So I suspect that the bright colors, like you see artist Louis Ray, who does some incredible work, some people scoffed at the idea of using really bright colors, but I think he may be onto something, and so are a lot of the other artists. I think color would have been very important.
Yeah.
So I think what we should do is go out and check out the grounds again. Have you been here? When's the last time you were here?
Like 3 months ago.
Wow. So you come out a lot. So I think what we ought to do is maybe go take a tour of the grounds and let people kind of see what this place is like.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, buddy. Let's go. All right, I'm here with my buddy Kyle. Somebody just met. Kyle, how long have you liked dinosaurs?
I've liked them most of my life.
Cool. How old are you now?
I'm 14.
Awesome. And do you have, of all the different species, is there one in particular you like the best?
What do you mean by species?
Well, like do you prefer carnivores? Do you like tyrannosaurs or raptors, or do you like the herbivores?
Well, I like all dinosaurs, but my favorite probably has to be in the Spinosaurid family.
Oh man, what a monstrous dinosaur that is.
Yeah.
So within Spinosaurids, there's Spinosaurus and Baryonyx, Suchomimus. Yeah, Suchomimus. Irritator. You ever heard of Irritator?
Yes.
Yeah, very cool. So that's the family you like, which I find them to be fascinating as well. So have you ever had, because those are rare dinosaurs, have you ever had a chance to ever see any of their bones or anything like that?
Well, I have a tooth at the back of my house. I don't know if it's real, though. It looks like it's been painted and kind of looks like it's a rock, just carved out. But I've seen some on YouTube before, but I don't think I have like a raptor claw. But
Right.
I don't know if it's real or not. It kind of feels like plastic and very shiny.
Sure. Well, I can tell you that different places, the fossils will look different and sometimes feel different. And it may be that you have a replica of it, but what you may have found in your yard, the possibility always exists that it's authentic. Now, you live in Edmonton, is that right?
I live in Winnipeg.
Winnipeg, so you came quite a distance then.
Well, we're here to visit my grandparents and auntie.
Nice. So in Winnipeg then, it's certainly possible that what you found now, it's not going to be likely that it's going to be the Spinosaurid family because, they're mostly South America and Africa.
Okay.
But it is certainly possible that it could be a number of things. You never know.
I think I got my tooth at a fossil shop or just a rock and mineral shop in America when I was going to all sorts of theme parks and stuff.
Nice. Well, the chances could be. So if there was one dinosaur that you could travel back in time and see, which one of your Spinosaurids would it be?
I'd have to say Suchomimus.
Wow, why do you like him? Is there a reason?
Well, I've heard that they have lots of teeth, and I just want to see a big dinosaur, but not one that's going to tear me apart completely. I mean, it's not going to rip my arms off like a T-Rex would. I mean, it would probably bite me and then just swallow me. I'd live a little bit longer.
What a great way to decide. My wish would be I could see one that's just a little slower than I am.
Yeah, I would. That's also one I would like to see. Just one that won't catch me within 5 seconds of me seeing it.
So I guess you and I would want to go back and see an ankylosaur because they probably couldn't catch either one of us. Well, man, it has been fun talking to you, and I'm so glad that you like dinosaurs. Do you think there's a chance that you may make paleontology a career, or do you just think it's a love?
It's always being a paleontologist is always something I've wanted to do, but I don't know. I've always liked doing stuff with my hands, so I also don't know if I'm just going to be like documenting what pieces they are But I do love digging. I like digging for stuff. Nice. Hey, listen, if you like working with your hands, maybe you could do some of the prep work where you're actually cleaning the bones. That's pretty amazing stuff. I think I might try to check that out. Nice. All right, thank you so much, buddy.
All right, you guys, that was the interviews. I hope you enjoyed both of them. Very fine young men, good dinosaur fans. It was a lot of fun, and so I enjoyed interviewing them, and I hope you guys enjoyed hearing them. And if you ever hear that I'm going to be anywhere, absolutely anywhere in your area, I now try to travel with all of my my video and sound equipment, and I am more than and would love more than anything to get a chance to interview you and meet you guys. So if you ever hear that I'm in the area and it's something that's open to the public, please come up, introduce yourself to me, and let me know if you would like to do that. Sometimes I forget to ask because I meet so many people. But if you'd like to, just say, hey, man, listen to your podcast. That's all you have to say is I listen or watch your podcast. And then I'm going to say, well, would you like to be on it? But I'd love to interview you guys, everybody. All right, let's get back into it. Patrick from Earth, Texas. And yes, that's the name of a town, by the way. My question is, do dinosaurs adopt other dinosaurs that are not the same species or even from the same species? I know a T-Rex won't adopt an abandoned baby Dakota raptor, but do herbivores do it? This is certainly a question that isn't asked before. Boy, you're right, Patrick. That's never been asked before. You know, animals adopting other animals is actually very rare. Most of the time when you see or hear about that, it's almost always on a farm or on a ranch or in a zoo. And that's because we have changed the environment, and therefore the animals are behave a little differently than in the rest of the world. Animals rarely adopt even members of their own species. So I don't think dinosaurs would have done it, Patrick. I don't think any dinosaur would have taken them in. I think, in fact, they may not have even tolerated you if you didn't have a parent with you. I don't know. That is certainly the first time that's ever been asked. And it's an interesting question, Patrick. I wish I had a better answer for you. All right. Carl Christian from Glansburg, Denmark. Hi, DG. Hope you're having a great day. I am, Carl. Nice to hear from you, buddy. I would like to ask you about Patagotitan. Do you think it's just Argentinosaurus or another dinosaur from Argentina? Well, man, that's a cool question, Carl. You know, what I saw about Patagotitan is probably what you all saw. Not a lot of information about it. So I have to make the assumption that enough time has transpired and enough research has been done to demonstrate that it is indeed different from Argentinosaurus or anything else found. I haven't heard anybody in the science community saying that's just an adult Argentinosaurus. So I have to go with the idea that it is indeed a new species who appears to maybe be the biggest that's ever found. All right, JB Townsend from Mansfield, Texas. Are you doing any shows in the DFW area that would help cut down on travel expenses and we could split the cost with someone? Okay, JB, what you're talking about is having me come and speak, and if we're going to be in the area, we're always up in the DFW area. If you will go to our webpage, dinosaurgeorge.com, click on the contact page and fill out that form, that will go to my booking agent, the director of events, Cheryl, and she will be more than happy to keep you posted on that. All right, Noah from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. Noah, my friend Noah. Hey, George, why did Therizinosaurus have such massive claws? Also, how aggressive would Triceratops have been? Okay, the claws of Therizinosaurus constantly get me in trouble because I just refuse to believe that they are used as strictly limb grabbers to pull down the leaves, and I don't believe they were used solely as defensive weapons. And once again, let me explain why. When you have a weapon that is designed to defend yourself, the weapon is almost always straight, like the horns of a trike, the spikes on the frill of a Styracosaurus, the spikes on the tail of Stegosaurus, the thumb of Iguanodon, the side spikes of an Ankylosaur. Those are designed to inflict an injury into your attacker, but easily come out so you can flee. When you have something that's deeply curved, that design is made to hold. And that's the sign, in my opinion, of a carnivore. Now, again, I know that there's so many more people that have studied so much in greater detail than me. I'm not trying to belittle their suggestion that those are made to grab a limb and pull it down and eat. Maybe that's what they're for. I mean, you look at a modern sloth and they have long claws. But my point is that the claws of a sloth are not thin-bladed and slicing claws. They have a flattened bottom to be able to grasp and hold their leaves. They can use them as weapons, and they do, but they're not thin blade-like, and that's more of what the claws of Therizinosaurus were. So I'm going to hang on to this. I'm going to fight this till I die, but I am on the opinion that they may have been omnivorous and that those claws would have been ideally suited for catching and holding and slicing small prey. No, they're not hunting big things, in my opinion. Yes, there's absolute evidence that they are herbivores, but remember, their earliest predecessors were carnivores. So they have some of that in them. Now, I know some of you disagree, but again, the joy of paleontology is for people to talk about their beliefs and have other people join in. For those of you that disagree with me, I want you to disagree with me. You don't have to agree with me. You can disagree with me and tell me, here's why I think you're wrong. I would appreciate that. And maybe one of you will one day change my mind. I will tell you this. It took a long time before somebody changed my mind that big theropods had some sort of feathers. I fought that for the longest time, and I finally gave in because enough evidence, in my opinion, had been found to finally convince me. But it was a lot of young people, too, that argued the point, and I believe they're right. Okay, how aggressive do I think Triceratops is? I think it's like a rhinoceros. I think it always walked around with a bad attitude. Leave it alone and you're fine. Get within chasing distance and it'll kill you simply because it's going to kill you. I believe Triceratops had the weapon, the size, and therefore probably the mentality to be a pretty rough dude. You don't get to be that big and bad by being the nicest Triceratops in the group. I think those guys would have been monsters. Talk about Triceratops. And thank you for writing me, by the way. Here's the next question. This comes from Mr. Triceratops from the Hell Creek Formation. Man, I'm glad I said you were tough and not a wimp. Hello, homie George. Hey, homie Triceratops. In your first Ask Dinosaur George video, you said that hadrosaurs are the most common. I was thinking, which type of hadrosaur was the most common? This question was on my mind for 7 years. Well, Mr. Triceratops, I believe that it was probably Edmontosaurus. I think Edmontosaurus would have been absolutely everywhere. I think they would have looked maybe like the big wildebeest herds that we see today. I think there would have been hundreds, thousands, maybe tens of thousands of them. So if you and I travel back in time, we would not see that many of your relatives, Triceratops. We wouldn't see as many, I don't think, but I do think we would see a lot of duckbills. Now, I will say this. In my previous podcast, my guest said that looking at the fossil record, he saw duckbills as dying out. So maybe duckbills would have been common at the mid to the early late part of the Cretaceous. But according to him, and he knows more than me, according to him, he sees them slowly fading away. So maybe they used to be popular, but then gave rise to Tyrannosaurus Rex, and that probably changed things. All right, thank you for writing to me. All right, Jarius Williams Elliott from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Hello, DG. How are you doing? I'm doing good, Jarius. It's good to hear from you. I would like to ask, do you know if any pterosaur species filled a similar niche as modern birds that pick insects off of larger animals? Cool question, Jarius. That's cool. Yes, I do. I think the smaller pterosaurs would have made a living probably riding dinosaurs around. We see it today in cows. We see it with we see it with like the cowbird, the what are they called? The tick birds that ride on the back of rhinos and pick the parasites off of them. We see it with egrets riding cows here in Texas. They walk beside cows and they jump up on their back and they clean them of parasites. I think they do it for two reasons. One is to get the free meal, but the other is defense. Think about how safe you are if you are a pterosaur and you're flying and landing on the back of a sauropod and you're riding that thing around, you're picking it clean. The sauropod loves it. I think they even did it with carnivores. I think just like modern crocodiles open their mouth up and let birds go in there and pick them, I think it's beneficial to both animals, and therefore I think they would have done it. All right, Michael from McDonald, Ohio. Hey, DG, I'm considering doing my senior thesis on the facial texture of tyrannosaurs. This is going to be a sort of a follow-up study to Thomas Carr's work with Daspletosaurus. I also have been watching the Whitmer Lab videos on holotype specimens of T-Rex, and they have found these leaf-shaped depressions in the maxilla of the T-Rex holotype. Okay, before I go any further, for all of you, look up Whitmer's Lab, Whitmer. That place is gold for anyone that wants to learn about paleontology or animals in general. I also dedicated an entire podcast to an interview with him. I don't know which one it is specifically, but please go back and take a look. If you haven't listened, you want to take a listen. Okay, so getting back to that, is there any chance that these depressions house a sensory organ? If they are, then could any variation be like an individual fingerprint that would allow individuals to distinguish each other during social interaction? Thank you so much for your answers, and I'll sure to thank you in my acknowledgement slide of my presentation. Sincerely, Michael. Michael, good luck to you, my friend. What a great thing this sounds like it's going to be. Here is the only answer I can give you. When you look at every single Tyrannosaurus Rex skull, they are distinctively recognizable by us. You can look at one and say, that's Stan, that's Sue, that's Black Beauty, that's this guy, that's that guy. We can tell by looking at the skull who it is because they're not carbon copies of each other. So with that, yes, they absolutely, in my opinion, would have been able to recognize individuals from a distance. Next time you go online, take a look at some images of Tyrannosaurus. Line them up side by side and take a look at them. In your slide presentation, do that for your audience or for who's ever going to review it. Say, you can tell by looking that this is Sue and this is Stan. Here they are side by side, instantly recognizable by humans. If they're recognizable by humans, then they're absolutely recognized within the species. So I don't know so much about the sensory organ part, but I will say that I have no doubt whatsoever that they could identify each other because I can identify who's who. And if I can do it, by gosh, so could a Tyrannosaurus Rex. Good luck to you, buddy. All right, last one, Stephen from Oro Valley, Arizona. I watched your video on preparing fossil skulls. I recently got a life-size Triceratops skull reproduction. It had been painted gray with what looks like enamel. I want to get it back to looking like a fossil. Can you recommend how I should prep it and paint it? The original finish is on the underside and looks very original. I don't think there's any way I can reproduce that. Your advice would be greatly appreciated. I wish to sell it if I can. Sincerely, Stephen. Well, Stephen, congratulations to you first for getting it. That's exciting. Here's what I would do. If they painted it what looks like that dull gray finish, first thing you should do is get sandpaper and roughen it up. Don't roughen it up so much that you're, of course, messing up the piece itself. Use a very fine grit. And the reason for that is because if that is enamel, it may be difficult to get something to adhere to it. It would be good to try to sand it all off as much as you can without destroying the finish of the animal. Get as much off as you can. Here's what I would do. Here's what I do. I always use oil-based paint. And the reason why I use oil-based paint is because it will adhere much better than latex. If you paint your fossil with latex, it's not going to adhere very well to, if indeed that's enamel. Oil-based will do better. But what I do is I thin it dramatically and make a wash. So here's what you do. Depending on the color, let's say the palette you want to use is sort of the tans and the grays. Let's say that. Okay. First thing you should do is get a small quart container of a dark brown oil-based paint. A semi-gloss. Don't get the high gloss. Try to get flat if you can find it, but you may not. And standard house paint is all you need. Then you mix that with paint thinner a lot to where it's the consistency of water. Then you can either, what I do is I get a little plastic spray bottle that I buy at the hardware store and I pour the paint in there, shake it up and spray it. Once you spray it on there, the dark color, then you take a towel and gently wipe off the excess. You want the dark to be in the cracks and crevices. You see what I mean? You want it to stay in there because you want to highlight those cracks and crevices. You let it dry for 2 or 3 days. Don't be too fast on this. Let it dry. Next, go back, get your next color, which is a much lighter color, maybe a tan. Then what you do with your lighter tan is you do the same thing. It's oil-based. You mix it up, make it thin as you want. But this time you get rags and you wipe it on because you don't want to spray it because that'll fill the cracks that you've already filled with the dark. This time, wipe it gently. Maybe not the entire thing. Highlight it in different areas. It's going to look weird. It's going to look like you're trying to camouflage it, but you're doing that. And then finally, you put your third coat, and that is your lighter coat. And you go back, and this time you can spray the whole thing down and then wipe it off as quickly as you can, but lightly do it. And what you will get is that mottled look that'll make it look more real. And maybe your light coat is a yellowish color, whatever you're trying to do. If you're trying to match the South Dakota stuff, then it's all going to be dark. But anyway, I do it in 3 layers, and the reason why I do it in 3 layers is because I think it adds to the realistic look of the piece, and it adds some depth to it. All right, you guys, I hope everybody has enjoyed themselves. I know I have immensely. It's always great to hear from you all. I've got a couple of days off coming up, and so I'm going to do everything I can to try to record as many of these as I can. I don't have any interviews lined up, so it's all going to be these Ask Dinosaur George questions. But the reason for that is because I want to knock them out. You guys have been waiting for so long. For all of you out there, please follow me on Facebook and Twitter and visit my dinosaurgeorge.com website for everything else. Thank you guys. Take care of yourselves and the people around you. And for everybody out there, hope you're doing well, and I will talk to you all soon.
Thank you for listening to the Dinosaur George Show. Please follow us on our social media links and join our mailing list. If you're interested in having Dinosaur George speak at your event, please visit our website at dinosaurgeorge.com. Until next time, keep digging for clues about the past.